I got the point from Aaron. Welcome to I Seem Fun, the Diary of Jen Kirkman podcast, episode 156, coming to you live from the All Things Comedy studio in Hollywood, California. This is available as a live stream right now if you're watching it. It will be archived later so you can look at it. Now, let me explain something before all you haters get on my fucking ass. I've been doing this podcast for 3 years. It has a great fan base. It is a podcast you're supposed to listen to. This live stream is not a television show. It is not meant to be visually stimulating, except me and my fantastic shirt. It is, you are watching someone record something that is meant to be listened to. So don't complain, hey, it's boring. Of course it's boring. It's a podcast. But if you're watching it, it's to just get a sense of what it looks like when I talk. And you're getting it. So, I feel self-conscious. I put my sunglasses on. So this week, I thought it would be fun. So my podcast, I Seem Fun, is a diary. It is me talking about what happened in my life. And if we talk about what's going on in the world every week, great. There's many private jokes. There's many little things. As you know, if you're dropping in for the first time, this is a well-established world. So get in it. Don't hate. I Seem Fun. Business up top. Everybody. My comedy special, I'm Gonna Die Alone and I Feel Fine, which is streaming worldwide on Netflix, is also available wherever albums are sold digitally. You can listen to it for $9.99. I Seem Fun podcast is available on Google Play, SoundCloud. You can subscribe on iTunes, give it 5 stars, and write in the review section, I don't have time to listen to podcasts. That's a private joke for the show. Go to, Facebook. There's a new web address for the Facebook account of I Seem Fun. And fuck if I can find it. It's fb.me/I Seem Fun podcast. I don't know why they changed it on me. They fucking did. Twitter @I Seem Fun podcast. These are ways to get in touch with me. I like when you guys commune on the Facebook fan page. Join my email list. No, not join. Send me an email at iseemfun@gmail.com. You can tell me things that you find fun that other people don't, or things that other people find fun that confuse you. I think I just said the same thing twice. You can also send me questions or things you want me to read on air. Again, as I said, I'm part of the All Things Comedy Network. Go to allthingscomedy.com and look at the other, or listen to the other awesome podcasts. And December 3rd, Los Angeles, I will be at the Hollywood Improv, 8 p.m. for the Jen Kirkman 4th annual Dysfunctional Christmas show. I would hurry up and get tickets because we just had a giant party of, I think, 75 people who are having an office party coming to that show. So that took a significant bite out of tickets. Don't wait. It's $20, and for $20 you get a night full of great comics talking about dark and stupid family stories. Me, and the part of the donation goes to the LA Food Bank. And if you want to be extra charitable, bring Child's Pajamas New and a book, children's book, for the pajama program. And, or you don't have to bring a pajama and a book. And you can donate it in the box there, and I will send it to a great program called the Pajama Program. So go to jenkirkman.com, click on tour dates. Tickets are available. Hollywood Improv, December 3rd, 8 p.m. It's a fucking great show. And so you I Seem Funners, I really need you to come out and bring the charitable gift, because I think regular people that just buy tickets, they're not going to read that they should bring pajamas and a book, and or a book. All right, great. So that's the business up top. I thought today would be a good day. Well, my podcast comes out every Tuesday night at 9, and I had to record one anyway, and I thought maybe it would be good to do one during the election, because people might be nervous as fuck and they want to get their mind off it and listen to or watch something that isn't about the election. So I will not be talking about the election today as we know it. I might mention something about women getting the right to vote and an interesting fact about that. But I have nothing to say. We're not giving you live updates on any states or what's happening. I have no information. I'm in a bubble. Tonight, after this podcast, I'm going home. I'm putting up my Christmas tree. It's a fake tree, so it's not going to catch on fire in 3 weeks. And I bought it from this website called Balsam Hill, and they try to make it look as real as possible. And they send you, when they send you the tree, these gardening gloves to put on when you put the tree together and then spread out the branches. And I was like, well, that's adorable. They're trying to make it authentic. Someone's drumming. Do you think it'll be picked up on the pod? Barely. Okay. I'm fine with it. So, and then I started assembling the tree, and I cut my hands all up. And so when I go finish the rest tonight, I'll put on my fun little gloves, but I'll decorate it. And the way I looked at it, I'm a Hillary supporter. Oh my God, she's a criminal. And so the way I look at it is, again, if she wins, I'll have a beautiful thing to look at. It's feminist Christmas. Or if not, Trump wins, everything goes in the toilet. And at least I can just take a Klonopin and stare at my Christmas tree. So that's all I'll say about the election. Now, listen, I'm sorry to get so lady heavy at the beginning, but I saw a friend of mine tweet, she said when she was growing up, she's in a band, women were told they couldn't play bass. And so she said, this tonight is big for me, first woman president. And so I took a cue from her and I put on Twitter, this is a true story. I said, when I was in grade school, a teacher told the boys, when I was taking typing, I can't find the tweet, that's why I'm saying it unless... Where the fucking tweet? I said, when I was in 6th grade, the male typing teacher told the boys they didn't have to pass class because they would have girl secretaries. That was a real thing. This is before computers. We had word processors. And typing was really seen as a gender-specific thing. You know, men at this point now, of course, whether you're an executive or not, men and women type, I think, fairly equally. I'm sure there's statistics and everyone's going to yell at me. But, we were using our iPhones, our Blackberries. Men use their laptop to send emails or look up porn or whatever. And so people are typing. Back then, it was really kind of a female thing. You're a secretary, you type. And this was only in 1986. I mean, it wasn't the 1800s. And so some guy on Twitter wrote, unless you're way older than you look, he was an anachronism even then. No, he wasn't, because I had a science teacher who told me I should just get pregnant and give up my dream of being an actor. I had a gym teacher who molested one of the girls, and she was so afraid to talk about it, she didn't report him. We had, the teachers were monsters, some of the male teachers. I would say about 30% of them said sexist things, even all the way into college. And so I wrote back to this guy, no, he wasn't. It was 1986, and I heard shit like that well into the 90s from teachers. Don't tell women their experience. Then he writes back, I was in grade school a decade before that, and he wouldn't have gotten away with that. And I wrote, you can't be sure that you were aware of every instance of sexism in your childhood, and because you didn't hear about it, that it didn't happen. Like, I wish if Hillary getting elected tonight, and I know, of course, here I am talking about the election, if it could wash away one thing, it would be this men telling women their experience. I know it seems innocent, I'm just tweeting, and you're like, he's giving his opinion. But why is he giving an opinion on my fact? Why would you give an opinion on someone's truth? That's what I don't understand. No, he's just giving an opinion. There's not to have an opinion about. There's no opinion about what happened to me. But one of the instances that happened to me, you don't need to give your opinion. If a black person tweeted, 20 years ago, my teacher told me that, I looked like a thug, you wouldn't tweet them, that wouldn't happen, that was a bad teacher. That's not what it's like. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It is so, men can be, who are looking to exonerate themselves, is the word exonerate? Whatever the word is. They're taking everything so personally. It's like, why? Why do you have to explain to me that guy was like 1 in a million? Like, that never happens. That's the reason I told it. If it was just one dude, I would never even mention it because I would have forgotten about it. It was but one of the many experiences. What don't we get about that by now on Twitter? What don't we get about that by now? It's not just one time a woman got catcalled. It's every 10 minutes of every goddamn fucking day. So I wish Hillary being elected would just make men magically get it. But the thing that's empowering me is I give less of a fuck what dudes think. Like, I used to just block or be like, I don't know. And now I'm like, fuck you. I don't even want you as a fan. You're too dumb. Like, when they'd be like, I was just saying this, block. Goodbye, because just saying is just not cutting it anymore. You don't know basic things about other people in this country who don't have it as easy as you. You don't know basic things. You don't tell someone that someone who did something to them is just one person who really is in the minority. You're not correct. You literally can't be correct about a place you weren't in, a town you don't even know where I grew up. You don't know what, you know nothing. You know nothing. God, I'm fired up today. Fired up. And I'll tell you one other thing that happened to me on Twitter yesterday. The trans people came after me. And now the liberals come after me. Listen, you little narcissist millennials, understand that unless you're trans, don't come after me about trans people. So this non-trans woman started to tell me what's up yesterday. I tweeted this, and then we'll stop talking about the election. I was watching a speech Hillary made last night. Her voice sounded touch and go. As regular listeners to my podcast, you will be all too well acquainted with my vocal cord issues. As a public speaker, there's something very depressing about not having total vocal control. If you try to go, I don't know, and instead comes out, your cords are inflamed. If your cords are inflamed, it means every time you speak, you are doing them more damaged. And the more inflamed they get, the less of a voice you have until you lose it completely. So hearing Hillary talk at the top of her voice, not doing proper breath control, being like, well, do this, Philadelphia. I tweeted, hey, girl, save your voice. You don't want vocal fry tomorrow when you're talking about how you smashed the glass ceiling. Wow, wouldn't you know it? First of all, within 1 minute, a dude wrote to me, you never tweet about her policies, only about how much you hate men. Never said that. It's not sexist to vote for someone who's going to be the first woman president. Does anyone understand that? It's not an act against men. I'm the most qualified person, and I'm a Democrat. Secondly, I'm psyched she's a woman because I think it's important for culture to have every kind of person eventually serve as the president. So I was excited. God forbid. It doesn't mean I want to cut everyone's dick off. Okay, so... But then 3 minutes later, and we get the other side of it, too liberal for their own good, looking for things on the internet. This girl wrote to me. So before I tell you what this girl tweeted, let's take apart what I tweeted. I used the term vocal fry. And I didn't mean to use that term. I said, Hillary, we don't need to have vocal fry when you're speaking tomorrow night. What I have, what she has, what people with damaged vocal cords have is not quite vocal fry. Vocal fry is when you lazily let the end of your sentence drop to this and you sound kind of gravelly. There's a whole thing going on in this world in the last couple of years about vocal fry. It's a thing, you know, like Paris Hilton talks like that. I know Howard Stern did a big thing on this on his show. A lot of young girls talk like that, and they talk sort of like this, and then they got into the vocal fry. And it's a weird trend. Remember Valley Girls speak in the 80s? Like, oh my God, everyone started talking like that. So vocal fry is sort of the new trend in talking. And I think the reason my vocal coach wouldn't like it is because it does cause damage to your cords eventually. Secondly, people don't like it because it sounds annoying. But third, I guess the new thing is, so the thing that used to be a couple years ago was like, all these women are talking in vocal fry. It's bad. It sounds annoying. And why are they doing it? To me, it comes off as a sort of insecurity. If you speak in a way that sounds like how everyone else is speaking, if there's a trend in vocalization, to me, it sounds insecure. But I guess the new thing, and I'm a feminist and I don't agree with this, is that stop telling women not to have vocal fry because you're saying that women should only have high-pitched voices. And I didn't say that. My voice is low, low, low. But you need to keep it clear, clear, clear. So I was not saying that. Then I guess there's a thing where people transitioning, there's a big debate. Should you have a woman's voice if you quote woman's voice, if you're transitioning into a woman? If you're going through the transition, your voice can get raspy from learning to talk a different way and not getting it at first, or you choose to have it that way, or whatever. That's not what I was talking about. I'm talking about a non-trans woman who is not trying to speak in vocal fry, who has a perfectly good, not too female, not too masculine voice, who is going to lose it from improper vocal technique. And she's a public speaker, and I was just thinking how, if she's the first female president and all, it'd be nice if she had a fucking voice tonight. I was worried about her losing her voice completely. So this girl wrote, again, a girl who is not trans, wrote to me, well, Jen, and explained the whole vocal fry thing to me that I just explained to you as if I don't fucking know it. Like, you write one thing and these kids think you're stupid. It's like, honey, I'm old enough to be your mother. I know a thing or two. But where I have the maturity you don't, is I don't fucking type it out on the internet all day to people. You can know things and shut the fuck up about it, unless asked. And so I wrote, sorry I used the word vocal fry. I have 140 characters. I meant to say I hope she doesn't lose her voice. And then the girl wrote, no, but did you read what I read? It's still important to learn. Fuck you, I know it already. And so then someone trans wrote, I'm trans, this didn't offend me. You said someone didn't want to lose their voice. And then in that way that you do when you're desperate to be correct, I'm like, that's right, one trans person agreed with me. And so then someone else wrote about the girl that wrote, you know, don't make fun of trans people, which I wasn't doing. This other woman wrote, but Jen, it's important to hear all points of view, and I think that you should take in what she said. Like, I don't have to take in what she said because I already know what she said. She's willfully misunderstanding what I tweeted. I just want the president, whether it's a man, a woman, a dog, or a cat, the presidential candidate that I support, I don't want them to lose their voice before their big speech. Fuck yourself if you read anything more. It's complete narcissism. Especially, I could understand if you were the group. If a trans person was just all day long, the fucking hatred that comes at her for being trans and the voice issues. And you read something really quick and you're like, no, I'm sick of people. And you tweet that. That's fine. But someone who's not, who's just like social justice warrioring for everyone else, it's narcissism. It's fucking narcissism. You want to be heard so badly. You want to feel important so badly. It is not about standing up for the little guy. It just fucking isn't. Because if you had that kind of empathy, you'd have that kind of empathy towards me. That's it. Period. End of story. I don't mean I'm the little guy, but I mean you would read something and not assume the worst of someone. So, I know I'm fired up today, yelling at the camera. I'm not normally this Howard Beale, but this is how I feel. So, sorry, I'm checking Twitter while I just listen. Someone said I had CNN on and was feeling the need for a Xanax, switched to the Jen Kirkman I Seem Fun live stream instead. Ooh, ooh, shout out to Rochelle. Perfect. Sorry, I just tweeted something really shitty to that guy. He wrote back, the guy that wrote about the typing teacher, he wrote, change is slow, I guess, and probably spotty and lurching. And I wrote back, yeah, no shit. Women have known this forever. Thanks for catching up. I'm just not in the mood. Not in the mood. We're not gonna take it. No. Isn't that Trump's song? It was at the beginning. Okay. So here's what I wanted to talk about. Listen, let's just fucking... I can't not think about stuff going on in relation to the election, Aaron. I can't. Do you forgive me? Aaron doesn't care. He understands who he's dealing with here. Well, I thought it was cool that everyone's going to Susan B. Anthony's grave and putting the I voted sticker on it. I actually can't believe no one has stopped that because it's technically defacing public property. Because on Oscar Wilde's grave in France, no big deal. You guys don't have to go there if you don't want to. People would kiss it with lipstick marks. I was one of them. And then I went back to it a couple years later and they put a giant fence around it so you can't. I feel like Oscar Wilde would have loved that. But I don't know if Susan B. Anthony, she'd have loved the gesture. So then, a lot of articles are going around and I think it's very important to note that the women's suffragette movement wasn't totally inclusive of African-American women in the sense that, now here's where I get tripped up because a lot of people are like, Susan B. Anthony's great if you like white feminism. And it's like, I don't know if Susan B. Anthony herself was only appealing to white women. From what I have read, Frederick Douglass worked with a bunch of women, black and white, to help keep women's rights moving along. I do know that history gets whitewashed, but I don't know if we can blame Susan B. Anthony for that. And maybe that's not what people are saying. Maybe people are saying, I identify more with other people. So, women got the right to vote in 1920, black and white women, but it wasn't until 1965 that we had the, oh God, what the hell is the name of it? Is the voting, oh geez, Louise, I can't think of the name of the Voting Rights Act. The Voting Rights Act, which made it illegal to deny anyone the right to vote based on race or ethnicity. So even though technically women got the right to vote, you could still fuck with them. And that's why we want the Equal Rights Amendment. We're technically not protected under the Constitution. I wonder if Hillary would just pass that when she gets in. Nixon wanted the ERA to pass before you right-wingers get all at me. So, so the 19th Amendment gave voting rights to women, including African-American women, in 1920. In 1964, the 24th Amendment outlawed poll taxes, removing another major barrier to African-American voting. In 1965, President Lyndon Johnson signed the Voting Rights Act into law. So, but here are some other women that we want to hold in our hearts today and celebrate, other than Susan B. Anthony. And if you want to read this, it's actually on Vogue.com. Why not be fashionable and historical at the same time? Sojourner Truth wrote in 1867, "I feel that I have the right to have just as much as a man. There is a great stir about colored men getting their rights, but not a word about the colored women. And if colored men get their rights and colored women not theirs, the colored men will be masters over the women, and it will be just as bad as it was before," the abolitionist Sojourner Truth said in 1867. Because of the imminent release of the film Suffragette, starring Carey Mulligan, if that movie chronicles the struggle for the vote in Britain, it also brings to mind our own suffrage story. But though we may have vague notions of the American women who fought so heroically for the ballot on this side of the Atlantic, they are in our minds, in our imaginations, in the photographs and first-person narratives that have come down to us, uniformly white people. Rendered invisible in so many accounts, black women were, in fact, doubly brave, fighting a dual oppression, marginalized, trivialized, humiliated, and dismissed for being both black and female. Women like Naomi Anderson, a suffrage activist who gave a fiery, controversial speech. As my friend Greg Proops says, it's only controversial when a woman or a black person is saying it. At the first Women's Rights Convention in Chicago in 1869. And Mary Ann Shadd Cary, the second black female attorney in the country, renowned for her tough oratory, who organized the Colored Women's Progressive Franchise Association in 1880. Or Anna Julia Cooper, who once announced, "The old subjective, stagnant, indolent, and wretched life for women has gone. She has as many resources as men, as many activities beckon her on, as large possibilities swell and inspire her heart," end quote. Or the educator Nannie Helen Burroughs, who asserted, "When the ballot is put into the hands of the American woman, the world is going to get a correct estimate of the Negro woman. It will find her a tower of strength, of which poets have never sung, orators have never spoken, and scholars have never written." Or Elizabeth Piper Ensley, who fought for and won full suffrage for women of all races in Colorado in 1893. And what of Sarah Massey Overton fighting for the vote in California in the early years of the 20th century? And Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, who had the prescience to state, "I do not think that the mere extension of the ballot a panacea for all the ills of our national life. What we need today is not simply more voters, but better voters." Oh, God, if she had seen that. Alas, while black women fought and fought hard, many of their Caucasian sisters remained locked in the racist conventions of the day. When Ida B. Wells, who founded the Chicago-based Alpha Suffrage Club, arrived in Washington, D.C. to participate in the 1913 suffrage parade, organizers asked the black women if they would mind very much marching at the end of the demonstration. In 1884, 71 years before Rosa Parks wouldn't budge from that bus seat, a conductor on the Memphis and Charleston Railroad ordered Wells out of the first-class ladies' car. She sued. This time around, she attempted to get the white Illinois delegation to disavow the parade's enforced segregation. It refused. Wells, in turn, refused to take her place at the back of the line. Bystanders on that day, more than a century ago, would have seen her emerge from the crowd and take her place between two white delegates, striding into history. So, let us not forget everybody. All right. Are we done with that now? Are we done with the election? All right. I had a theory. maybe I shouldn't talk about this. Well, I was just in Iowa City this weekend, which was fantastic. I love Iowa City, you guys. It's I don't think I could live there. I don't think there's enough going on quite for me. But the people are fantastic. It's almost like when you meet smart people who aren't cynical and shitty, like, some of your bigger cities, smart people are a little smug about it. There's this just kind of kindness to the Iowa City folks, and I don't know. I felt like everyone's face wasn't in their phone the whole time too. Anyway, great show there at the Witching Hour Festival, and I wasn't able to. I was gonna fly in a night early because I wanted to see Pussy Riot speak. But I would have had to get up at 4:30 in the morning, and that was just not going to happen. I instead got up at a more decent hour, like 7, and got on a flight, got to Iowa City, and the next day went to see the Iggy Pop documentary, Gimme Danger, by Jim Jarmusch. And it was so fantastic. I loved it. I saw it in a little movie theater. And well, first of all, the guy that announced it was, part of the festival. And he was like, so we've got so many great things at this festival. This person spoke today. And now we have this movie with Iggy Pop that I'm about to show. And then tonight, the headliner at the Englert Theater is Jen Kirkman. Whole audience silent. Someone sneezed. I was like, what the fuck? It was humiliating. He didn't know I was there. I just, I was slinking in the back. And then I asked the crowd that night, had any of them gone to the documentary? And a bunch of them said they did. And I was like, why don't you fucking cheer after my name? But I love the documentary. I thought the thesis statement of the movie was this: in 1973, they'd been influential in touring, but the Stooges still weren't famous or whatever. And then it kind of didn't address that. It just was sort of how they got together, and it was very cool. And Iggy Pop's a fun guy. I think he would be an I Seem Funner. I really do. And I just loved it. And then I got introduced to his Instagram account. So if any of you don't know who I'm talking about, at the end of every I Seem Fun episode, you are hearing a Stooges song called No Fun. So there's something. So download that song if you're going to get anything. That's a great song to help you get into them. But they were fantastic. They were pre-punk, but they weren't punk. And they almost were, I think he felt himself as more of a psychedelic kind of vibe, but not corporate and cheesy like the Doors. So anyway, he has an Instagram account called Biggie Pop, Biggy, and it's him and his cockatiel Biggie doing music together in his cockatiel dances. And it's the greatest Instagram account. It's all videos, and there's only about 16 of them. And it has been making me happy for the past few days. But I had a theory. Are there any, and I mean famous, like selling out arenas and have their own show, are there any famous female comics that were punks growing up? In other words, did I, by not listening to the commercially viable music growing up, and I think High Fidelity, the movie, asks this question, did the music you were listening to growing up speak to you because you already were that way, or did it change you? That's not quite how they said it in High Fidelity, but I got the message, is which comes first, your relation or do you get molded? So did I get molded into an aesthetic of do it yourself? Small crowds, you're great, but only a few people like you. Like, I didn't mean to do that per se. I had big non-punk rock dreams for myself. And then I realized, God, did I listen to so much? I mean, if you think about music, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day at least. I mean, I listened to music as a teenager in my headphones in between classes at school, during at least one lunch hour, walking to and from school at least 20 minutes, in my room all night, 3, 4 hours. I mean, that's a lot of music all day long, and it's just constantly the punk messages of like, everything popular sucks and all this. And so I feel like I never learned to play a certain game or be a certain type of person. And I wonder, I'm just putting it out there. Do people who listen to punk, I would like to say, find everyone famous. And I'm going to say comics only, stand-up comics only, because I feel like you can get a punk rock ethos through in a screenplay or something. But stand-up comics who just have to stand there and be themselves in front of people. If who you are is sort of a fringe-loving music person, are you going to appeal to everybody, like just in a vibe, just in a cosmic sense? I would love to list like the 20 most successful stand-ups, maybe not of all time, because you have to understand punk was going on during some of the most famous comics. So to get into older punk of bands that have broken up when you're a teenager in the 90s is a certain type of person that doesn't really go with the mainstream. So if you're, let's say from the 90s on, the 25 to 30 most famous, successful, financially earning stand-up comedians, how many of them had a punk rock background in terms of what they listen to? I bet it's only 10%. If someone actually does that research, I would love it. I'd love to be wrong because I've given up. I've given up on ever having a large audience, and I really just want one. Imagine if I had 20,000 people in each city to come see me, and I charge you guys, what, $100 a ticket? I could make $2 million a show. We do 3 shows a year. So I don't think I'm going to get there, is what I'm saying. And I blame listening to the Sex Pistols for that. So, well, geez, I didn't even I've already talked about everything. I feel like we're going to have to go back. I was going to talk about driverless cars, but, this is a fun article. So I forgot that I had all this other papers here. That was gross. Sorry for that. So door close buttons on elevators and pressing crosswalk buttons, this is from the New York Times, do not work. They're just put there to give you a sense of control. And so this is what the article says. Okay. Some buttons we regularly rely on to get results are mere artifices, placebos that promote an illusion of control, but that in reality do not work. No matter how long or how hard you press, it will not change the outcome. Be prepared to be surprised and disappointed by some of these examples. Door close buttons on elevators. Karen W. Penafiel, Executive Director of National Elevator Industry, Inc. National Elevator Industry, Inc. How can I help you? This is Karen, yes. Well, what we're working on right now is a button that doesn't work. It's one of the most important features on an elevator. We'll get to safety later, but I think it's more important. Instead of those pulleys that keep it in the air, we'll have someone look at those in 10 years. But right now, I'm really focused on this new button. Anyway, said the closed door feature faded into obsolescence a few years after the enactment of the Americans with Disabilities Act in 1990. The legislation required that elevator doors remain open long enough for anyone who uses crutches, a cane, or a wheelchair to get on board. Said Mrs. Penafiel in an interview on Tuesday, quote, the riding public would not be able to make those doors close any faster. Okay, so that's actually kind of a good thing. Like, the doors don't shut that quickly because we've got our friends and families who are in wheelchairs using crutches or a cane, or maybe just someone who walks slow. So you can't actually make it close faster. So you bullies that are in an elevator who see someone in a wheelchair and want to close it.
But what if you're being chased by a murderer?
Oh, do you know I think about this all the fucking time?
Right?
Well, at that point, I mean, yeah, I think about this all the time. When I'm in the elevator and I'm like hitting the door button, I always think, what if someone crazy was coming? I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like maybe we should add that in, like the Americans with Disabilities Act and people who might be being chased by a murderer. So we can have elevators that if you hit the button, the door does close. Yeah. And we would have to trust ourselves as people that we would not use it to close the door on a handicapped person.
No. If you hit it like with your do not disturb on your phone, like if someone calls 3 times in a row in less than 2 minutes or something, it will ring. Like it should be like that for the button. Like
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So if you hit it 30 times in a minute, then it should.
I'm just going to say 3 times.
Oh,
just 3 times.
Yeah. I mean, I'm exaggerating.
But wait, so I didn't know this. So if I have my do not disturb on, which I don't put on in case someone dies, if they call me 3 times, it rings.
Yeah.
That's fucking frightening. So then you know.
It knows it's an emergency. Yeah.
But then you know when the phone rings that it's probably one, unless some idiot friend of yours keeps calling.
Yeah.
But then seeing that people like my parents, they might not know this. They would just call once and be like, well, I guess I'll just die on the floor. But that's their problem. I mean, I'll just have to tell them.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Yeah, so now the buttons can be operated by firefighters and maintenance worker who have the proper keys or codes. Well, obviously. Crosswalk signals. New Yorkers, those who don't jaywalk, which is no one, have for years dutifully followed the instructions on the metal signs. To cross street, push button, wait for walk signal. But as New York Times reported in 2004, the city deactivated most of the pedestrian buttons long ago with the emergence of computer-controlled traffic signals. I guess I never thought of them as not computer controlled. More than 25 to 3,500 walk buttons that were in place existed as mechanical placebos. About 500 were removed during major construction. It would cost $1 million to dismantle the non-functioning mechanisms, so city officials decided to keep them in place. I feel like office thermostats, what? Same problem that confronts couples at home. One person's perception that a room is too cold is another's that it's too warm. Faces offers workers as well. Depending on where you work, you might find the thermostat in a plastic case under lock and key, but if you're lucky, you might have control over one. Well, you think you have control. The air conditioning, heating, and refrigeration news, it's my favorite newspaper. I got all my election news from the air conditioning, heating, and refrigeration news. Reported in 2003 that it asked readers in an informal online survey whether they had ever installed dummy thermostats. Of 70 who responded, 51 said they had. David Trimble of Fort Collins, Colorado, wrote the news that people felt better that they could control the temperature in their work. This cut down the number of service calls by over 75%. That's a good point. Although I have read that offices are technically sexist because people make fun of women who are too cold, but our body temperatures are sometimes lower than men's because we're inferior. And we're cold bitches. Sense of control. I don't know what this button is anymore. Okay, so yeah, elevator, thermostat, crosswalk. It's all bullshit, you guys. I have listener emails that I don't want to read. Oh, because I already read one of them. I mean, I don't know. All right, here, look it. I did something last week. Do you remember my episode, everybody, where I interviewed my friend Dan? It was a They Seem Fun. And we were talking about when you think of super famous people, you're like, did they do this? Like, does Gwyneth Paltrow know what getting her parking ticket validated is? Like, I don't think so. And so 2 weeks ago, I went and sold my computer, an iPad I had, and an iPod. And I felt, I wanted to recycle them. You know, I'm not going to throw them in the trash. But I had no one to give them to. And, like, personally that I knew. And I was like, well, there is a place in my neighborhood that gives you money for it. And I think I got $300 for all three total. And they were like, sorry, you know, this computer's a little broken. And I was like, I don't care. I just want to not have them sitting around anymore. And if I can get $300 for it, great. And then I thought, is that like, am I keeping it real? Or am I, like, wouldn't someone, I wanted that money. I mean, that was good for me. But I go, oh God, I guess, would a successful person do that? I mean, maybe their assistant would go do it for them. But would they even think of that? Or would they just be like, take it to a recycling place? I don't know. I just felt like this is definitely something, let's say Mariah Carey is not standing in line at a place to sell her laptop. I felt sort of like I was at a pawn shop. I felt trashy. But there's nothing trashy about recycling for cash. I mean, I think it's great. But I went in and it seemed like an Israeli guy running it. I'm not exactly sure how to pinpoint the ethnicity, but I believe he was Jewish. There was also a calendar that had a temple's name on it. Like, you know, those paper calendars you get that I can't believe people still use. It was like blah, blah, blah temple. And when he went through my old computer, my iCloud was on. So suddenly emails that I'd had recently came up, and my boyfriend Jake, who is Jewish, had for some reason it was like in relation to something we were texting about, but it was like funny. And he just wrote me an email that said, I am Jewish. And it seems anti-Semitic when this Shiksa girl comes in with her little German face, you know, and gives the laptop to the guy. And then the iCloud opens, and this email, it was like, it wasn't that he was looking through my emails, but it was like, it showed up on the home screen sort of as like an alert. And it just said, and it didn't say his last name, so he couldn't even see that it was kind of a Jewish sounding last name. It just said, Jake, I am Jewish. And it sounded sarcastic, like someone was making fun of our Jewish friends and neighbors. And that email stayed stuck like that for 10 minutes. So the whole time, this guy is helping me, and I'm just trying to sell him a laptop that says I am Jewish. And I felt like a fucking idiot. And I'm like, do I address this, or do I look more paranoid if I'm like, no. And so I just didn't say anything. And I'm just wondering. And then I was telling someone I do this, and they're like, do you stay there while they clear it? I go, no. You turn off your iCloud, and then you give it to them, and they clear it. And they're like, what if they didn't? I'm like, what are they going to find? Emails to myself about, here's an article to read on I Seem Fun. I mean, I'm not running for president. I don't know. It's like, what are they going to find? Again, I have one nude photo of myself that if it went viral, I'd be so happy. It was perfection. And I didn't take it for a man. I took it for myself to monitor. I was trying to see what I would look like without clothes on. I was actually trying to see what I'd look like in a bathing suit before I went on this thing. But for some reason, I just did it without my clothes on. Anyway, you can't really see the hoo-ha. You can just see everything else. But felt real good about the shape my body was in that picture. And again, I welcome you to hack my computer and pass it around. Anyway, so there's that. Oh, God. I'm going to say Iowa City, you have one annoying person in there. So I was in a Starbucks. Don't do mom and pop. That Starbucks was booming. It was like a nightclub. It was just constant line going around, and everyone was in that Starbucks. There really wasn't that many mom and pop coffee shops that I saw, unless you want something from like a gross pot of coffee. I'm going to get so many emails there is one. I had some writing to do. I'm working on a couple scripts that no one's asking me to, but I'm going to try to sell them. And I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying using a different part of my brain. I haven't been on the road, well, except for last weekend, but I will be off the road for a little while, 6 months to a year. And I am enjoying using the other part of my brain, which is script writing and all that kind of stuff. And coming up and pitching TV shows. I've been doing a little bit of that. And I like using that part of my brain. I don't have anything to say right now in stand-up. So anyway, I like to work in Starbucks because the Wi-Fi is reliable. And when I'm writing, I often use Wi-Fi to look up things that I need to solidify. So, and I trust the coffee. I know what it's going to taste like. And I am cleared to drink decaf by my vocal coach, therapist, doctor. So I like to get my decaf Americano because I don't think decaf tastes that well when you get it anywhere else. And I can't tell the difference between decaf and regular Americano at Starbucks, except for I don't get a jolt, right? But I was on Sudafed, so I was plenty speedy. So anyway, I'm writing, typey. Oh my God, it's so brilliant. You can't even believe it. And this guy is standing next to me. He's probably like 18. And he's talking to his friend, and he's like, no. So it's like two dudes, and one of them is totally the technically guy. He's like, John, technically you're not getting a cappuccino. You're getting a milkshake. It's like, if it has sugar and flavoring and milk in it, that's a milkshake. Don't call it coffee. And his friend's like, the name of it is Frappuccino. So I'm just getting that. He was like, but it's not coffee or cappuccino. He's like, but it's not a cappuccino. I was like, shut up. And it was like this guy thought he was the first one to say it. It's like, honey, Starbucks been around for decades. Like, congrats on your little, Bill Hicks routine you're working on. But it's boring, the old lady next to you. Just call it a milkshake. What are you even in there for? Let your friend go in and buy something and you shut up. God, don't you wish you could just butt into conversations at that point and go, your friend sucks, dude. Hang out by yourself or come sit with me. I'm not going to talk to you, but do you need shelter from this fucking blowhard? So anyway, nothing really happened on the plane this time around. I flew from LAX to Atlanta. Lots of people in Trump t-shirts at the Atlanta airport getting on my flight from Atlanta to Iowa. So I don't know if they were going canvassing or what they were doing, but yeah, it was interesting. When you see people in person, and let me make a plea. This is my letter to America. This is why I actually like doing comedy, because I don't hate people who support Trump. I truly believe that everybody is secretly a liberal, but they don't know it. I believe this. Everyone wants jobs coming back to America. I do. Everybody wants a thriving infrastructure so we don't have bridges falling down and we have the most up-to-date trains, high-speed rail. I do. I think everyone wants healthcare for all. I know that sounds controversial. I think it's because people have been tricked into thinking it's socialist, which is bad, but Medicare as it exists currently is socialist. And what every congressional, Congress and House person, senator has is sort of single payer health care. They are fully covered with our tax dollars. So I want everyone to have health care that's covered by our tax dollars. And I know you think, oh, my taxes will go up. I'm not sure the details of that, but you will save money because there's no way that you pay more in taxes than you do for your health care, whether it's your deductible or that's not covered or you had an operation. There's no fucking way. So anyway, I think that's what we want, right? I think people want a right to their guns. I'm not loving guns, but, I'm not trying to take them away. People want, some people don't want a woman to have the right to choose, but that is technically already legal. It's already in the Constitution, so we don't even have to keep arguing about it. I think people want great education, great public schools, so we don't have to just privatize, so the richest people aren't the only ones getting a good education. I think we want the auto industry saved. I think we probably want less war. I think we understand that our kids and friends and relatives and ourselves are dying in wars that other people start. I think we want less dependence on foreign oil. I think we want to help the environment. Maybe you don't believe in global warming. But is it such a belief for you that you want to stop people from finding alternate ways to not pollute? I mean, I don't think so. So I think the two issues that people really might actually not agree on is women's right to choose an environment. But again, if Progress marched on without you on that one, I think you would see it doesn't affect your life that much. And actually, in ways you don't understand, women having a right to choose does affect your life because we have less people growing up in poverty with children they're being forced to take care of. So, okay, whatever. So whenever I see a Trump supporter or an overly liberal person who's like, Jill Stein only, I just go, oh, we all want the same stuff, basically. And they're probably really nice people because I have Trump supporters in my family and they're so nice and I love them and they're not bad people. And they may be racist in general, which is inexcusable at this point, but one-on-one they would not be if they actually had people in their life that were different religions, different colors, different genders, different gender identity, different whatever, romantic sexual orientation, whatever. But when I actually just see people in person, my heart melts. And I'm like, oh, we're all just I mean, once you get on a plane and it takes off, you have zero control and you're on the same boat. So, and when I do comedy for people and everyone laughs, I don't know who's voting for whom. And it just makes me feel good that there are these tiny moments, whether it's we're all laughing at the same joke or we're all on the same plane that, again, we have no control over. If I can just find those tiny moments where we're all one, I feel a little more calm because I know at the heart of it, it's just people who, and I guess I'm condescending by saying they're getting it wrong, but I truly believe they are. But I don't hate. I really don't. And I feel hatred directed at me for the candidate that I want. And that really makes me feel sad. I hate Trump. I don't hate Trump supporters. And so anyway, I really hope that, what was my point? I had a point. Oh, getting on the plane, seeing the Trump supporters. So I don't know really where I want to go with that statement, but there is just something, I feel very lucky to get to do what I do because I get a chance so often to not just see people as a group, even though weirdly I see you as a group in my audience on stage, but I understand that it's made up of so many different kinds of people. And I think it's lovely. But when I watch on TV, people chanting, lock her up, and, it scares me. It scares me. And I don't like how it sounds. And I really hope that tonight there's a sense of, we all have to come together under the president. We don't have to, but we just can't be violent. And I don't know. I just want to be able to feel celebratory, and I don't want anyone to ruin it for me. And I won't let them. But what was my point about? Oh, so I'm on the plane. And I'm getting like angsty when I'm in Atlanta and I see all these Trumpy guys. And they make me feel nervous. I don't like it. And then I see them getting on my plane, and it just equalized and humanized us all. Like, we're all just walking to this tin thing that flies away, and we hope it works out. And so my heart started melting like the Grinch. No, his heart didn't melt. It grew 3 sizes. But you know what I'm saying. Or like a winter warlock. And you get what I'm saying, a Christmas movie. So I'm sitting on the plane and I got this like burst of good mood. It was very bizarre. It was like someone had given me a dopamine pill, like a good mood endorphins serotonin booster. And see what love can do. You don't need all those meds. So this woman gets on a plane and she's standing next to me. Now I'm in the first row of economy comfort. No big deal. And this woman is next to me and she's in a long line. So she's going to be standing next to me for at least 5 minutes. And I hear, "Meow, meow." And I'm like, oh my God, there's a cat. I love cats. I'm so excited. And I look and she's got a cat. I go, oh, do you have a cat? And she was like, sorry, I know it's loud. I'm like, no, I love it. What's your kitty? And I look and it was a black and white tuxedo kitty, my favorite kind of kitty. And it was just like, meow. And she was like, his name's Georgie. We're moving back to, we just moved from Georgia or something. And she was like, he's really scared, but he's been with me my whole life. He's 15. And I was like, oh my God. And I really, really, I was like, I hope he's okay. I really wanted to go to the person sitting next to her and go, I have a way better seat in economy comfort right on the aisle. I'll sit in a fucking middle seat. Can I sit next to this black and white cat? And I was like, do I want to jump to the level of being that person who's like, I'm going to, give up my seat and go sit next to a woman who didn't ask. By the way, she probably doesn't want to be spoken to on the flight if she's anything like me. She's got her own agenda, but I wanted to sit and help her with the cat. Like, how could I be helpful? The cat might not want anything to do with me. I love that I think that I'm a cat whisperer, the most difficult animal to get on your side. But I just thought I might sit next to it and give him like head rubs or something. But I didn't do it. Just calm down. I haven't changed that much. But that's where the love of my fellow man and woman was sending me, as I was talking to people about their cats. And I could see the women sitting next to me were like, oh boy, I think they were nervous. Like, we got a talker on our hands. And I was like, don't worry, I'll shut the fuck up right quick. And then I watched a movie. What did I watch? Oh, it was great. On the flight from LA to Atlanta, Delta had the Iris Apfel documentary, Devil Wears Prada, had Sex and the City 1 and 2, the movie. I wanted to watch the second Sex and the City movie so badly. I've seen it 50 times. And I know it's got its problems. But it's so ridiculous that I kind of love it. And I was like, I don't have the balls to watch this. I am not. People are always like, you don't give a fuck. I do, actually. I give a fuck sometimes. I could not watch that movie on the plane. I just felt like people would think I was dumb. So I didn't. I did actually mainly just work on the plane, but I like having something in my headphones and just something I can look up at. So I put on the Iris Apfel documentary, which I've already seen. But if you guys haven't, it's great. And if you're like, it's made by the Maisley brothers who did Grey Garden. So it's like, smarty pants directors, or documentarians who are now dead. Anyway, Iris is alive. It's a great documentary. If you want to take your mind off the election, it's fantastic. Watch it. Iris Apfel, Apfel is her last name. And the documentary is just called Iris, and it's great. It's about a 95-year-old fashionista woman in New York, and she and her husband had a fucking rich life. They never had kids, by the way, and they just went around the world and procured and curated fabrics and stuff, and they used to decorate for like the White House and other famous people, and just like two really cool meant for each other old people hanging out in their Manhattan apartment. She keeps her Christmas decorations up year round. I mean, oh my God, my tree. I had to get home to my tree. I'm so fucking excited about this thing being up. Although it's going to be 90 to 80 degrees in Los Angeles this week and next. And I think it is global warming, because when I first moved here in 2001, in November, I was wearing a winter coat, and not because your blood is thin, you're a pussy. Bah, 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 bah. It was like 45 degrees. It was chilly. It would get cold. It would be 65 in the day, and about like 45 the minute the sun went down. And so nowadays it's 95 during the day and 75 at night, and you should not have your air conditioning on in November. I gotta move to New York. I need this podcast to get 1 million listeners. And then the advertising will go through the roof, and I'll make enough to buy my Tribeca apartment that I want. Although, maybe I'd live more near Central Park so I could be closer to some trees, because I think I would eventually get sick of not being around nature. Not that I am now, but I like a tree or two is nice. So, yeah, I got to move back to New York. I fucking miss it, and I just don't like LA anymore. I think LA is cool. Like, it's... Listen, if you're going to live in any two cities, I don't know. Don't listen to me. I'm a fucking snob. Anyway, that's it. I talked about computer. I want to read you an article about driverless cars. I'll read it next week. Or we'll discuss it. How about this? Will you send me an email to iseemfun@gmail.com and tell me if you would, like if money was no object, would you get a driverless car right now? And then if not, or you could answer the question of, are you excited? Do you think it's better for the world or America or wherever to have, like, if every car was driverless? Would you like that? Do you like driving, or would you rather be like a passenger in your own car so you could do other stuff? Email me that, iseemfun@gmail.com. Just put driverless car in the subject heading. And then next week when I read the article, I'll have you, that way you guys will be able to weigh in real time. Isn't this fun? I haven't checked the listener email in so long, and it's time for us to sign off in about 4 minutes. So what I'm going to do is just log into the listener email right now. My password was changed 23 days ago. Uh-oh, ruh-roh, as they say. If I don't have the right password, I don't remember changing it. And God, I don't even fucking drink. Like, where are these black holes where I don't remember anything? I mean, I drink, but not like once a month. I have a glass of wine. Okay. No, where is it? Gmail. iseemfun@gmail. Where is it? Beep, ba, ba, ba. iseemfun. Here it is. Okay. Let's see. Let's see if this password works. Wrong password. Try again. What have I done? Nope. I don't remember my password. It says didn't change your password. I mean, I don't think I did, but I must have. Wait, it's just letting me choose it right now. That's weird. Okay. Hang on one sec. I'm changing it right now. Yeah, that's right. That's what you can get on the I Seem Fun podcast, is someone changing their password in real time. I'm now signed in. This seems so weird that I could just change it. Okay. Okay. Dear Jen, this is a compliment email. Who gives a shit? I'm complimenting myself. The subject heading is, thank you for validating me, though you don't know you did. Ooh, I love it already. Dear Jen, I am a girl. I am a girl who never stays in the same place for longer than a few months at a time. This lifestyle led me to a midnight train from Brasov to Cluj, Napoca, Transylvania. I'm sorry about that pronunciation. With no one who spoke English or German, but an anti-Semitic troubadour. If I wanted to have a conversation, it had to be with this violinist who told me he knew I was a Jew and that the Jews have suffered so much because they didn't accept Jesus. Well, this dovetails nicely into my story about selling the computer. I began to fear for my life. I got off the train at the wrong stop and ended up in the middle of nowhere. I lived, but I was scared. Now everyone tells me I'm stupid for having been there in the first place. Cut to the 1st of October. I found myself sitting in the second row at your Netflix special taping. When you started talking about your solo trip to Italy and all the strife you took for solo traveling as a woman, and later when you talked about street harassment, I felt so good. I saw that you, one of my heroes, are like me. You have the kind of life I strive for, and you got it from saying yes to life and not doing what girls are supposed to do. I love your book and your podcast. I swear to go to every one of your shows I can. Alex the Kid Seymour. All right. Thank you, Alex. Well, listen to me. Don't look up to my life too much because it's a lot of work. Touring this year took its toll on me, and it was a lot more work for what I had intended to put into things. And so it took away from a lot of areas in my life. So I didn't live a very well-rounded life this year. And I'd like to fix that. And so that's why I'm taking some time off. But I guess you're right. In general, I kind of do what I want when I want within reason. I have never been to Brasov or Transylvania, and I think traveling for fun is really cool and something, if you can financially get it done, do it. I actually don't travel for fun too much, and so I'd like to do more of that myself. So look up to yourself, not me, because you already had done this. And, yeah, you weren't stupid to do that. I mean, you didn't know that you were going to run into an anti-Semitic violinist. And people can be awful and scary and try to murder you anywhere you go. You can walk outside your house and something bad can happen at the local coffee shop. So why not travel, take a risk? And I'm glad you validated. You felt validated. So that's great. Okay, I guess that's it. I've got a lot of emails. Oh boy. Hang on, one more. No, never mind. Okay, that's it. Well, this is how every episode ends. I start wandering and I get ADD, and it's perfect. I am going to drive home now and begin putting up my Christmas tree. Until next week, which will not be a live video podcast. Oh, next week's episode, so many people keep asking me how I got over my fear of flying. And I was getting frustrated because I was like, God, I talk about this all the time on the podcast. I've talked about it in my books. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make an entire episode called Fear of Flying. And so next week's episode is going to be from every angle, from medication to books I read, to meditations, to psychiatric advice, to just life experience, how I got over my fear of flying. And it'll be a full hour, and it will take it apart from every angle, and you can pick which angle might work best for you and your fear. And I'm really excited to do it. I'm like putting a lot of work into it right now in terms of outlining exactly what I want to talk about, because I really want it to help people. And that way, when people ask me how, I can send them a link to that episode. So I hope you find that interesting. I think it'll be really cool. And then, of course, coming up this Friday night is the third episode of This Week Seemed Fun, where I talk about pop culture and politics news that meant something to me this week, not necessarily the world at large. Okay, so until This Week Seemed Fun or next week, have fun.